I'm trusting you to stick with me, to feel Ellie's confusion and excitement, to wonder about the writer's intentions, and to root for whatever comes next. I'm not here to waste your time with fluff or clickbait. This story is trending for a reason. It's got all the keywords you're searching for. Love, mystery, fate, and a touch of adventure. But more than that, it's got heart. You're going to laugh, you're going to gasp, and you might even tear up a little. I'm speaking to you, the person who's still here, reading this, because you know a good story when you see one. You're the kind of person who stays up late binge-watching, who rewinds to catch every detail, who texts their friends about a plot twist they didn't see coming. That's why I know you're not clicking away. You're in this with me, and I'm not letting you down. By the end of this video, you'll have the answers you came for, but you've got to trust me and keep watching. Deal? Alright, let's crank up the intrigue. Ellie's sitting on her couch, the letter in her hands, her mind racing. She's read it a dozen times, and every time, it feels more personal, like it's unlocking something inside her. But there's a problem. The suitcase doesn't have a name tag, just a cryptic initials, JL, no phone number, no address, nothing to go on. She's got no idea who this bag belongs to or how to find them. But the letter? It's got clues. A mention of a specific coffee shop in New York, a reference to a song that Ellie knows by heart, and a line about the moment we almost met. What does that even mean? Ellie's starting to wonder if this is more than a mix-up. Is it possible she was meant to find this? Her friends think she's nuts for even considering tracking down the writer, but Ellie's got a gut feeling she can't shake. She's about to make a decision that could either be the best thing she's ever done, or a total disaster. What would you do? Would you chase the mystery, or let it go? Ellie's about to choose, and it's going to change everything. But just as she's reaching for her phone to start digging for answers, there's a knock at her door. And trust me, you're not ready for who's standing there. That knock at Ellie's door sent a jolt through her, like the universe was daring her to face whatever was coming next. She froze, the love letter still clutched in her hand, its words echoing in her mind. Promises of love, hints of a missed connection, and that haunting line about the moment we almost met. Her heart was pounding, not just from the mystery of the letter but from the sudden realization that her quiet night was about to take a sharp turn. She wasn't expecting anyone, her friends were out of town, and her neighbor wasn't the pop by unannounced type. Ellie glanced at the suitcase, still open on her living room floor, its contents spilling out like a puzzle she hadn't asked to solve. Who was at her door? Was it the owner of the suitcase, somehow tracking her down already? Or was it something else entirely? Another piece of this strange, serendipitous puzzle that seemed to be pulling her in deeper with every passing second? She took a shaky breath, set the letter down, and walked toward the door, her curiosity outweighing her nerves. You're probably sitting there, just as on edge as she was, wondering who's about to step into this story. I'm not going to spill it just yet, but I promise you, this moment is going to ripple through everything that follows, and you're going to want to stick around to see how it all unfolds. As Ellie reached for the doorknob, let's step back for a second and get to know her a little better, because she's not just some random woman who stumbled into a mystery. She's someone you might see a bit of yourself in. Ellie grew up in a small town just outside Chicago, the kind of place where everyone knows your business, and she always dreamed of something bigger. She moved to the city 5 years ago, chasing a career in graphic design, hoping to make a name for herself. She's talented, no doubt, but the grind of freelance gigs and corporate clients has worn her down. Lately, she's been questioning if she's on the right path, if all the late nights and coffee-fueled deadlines are worth it. Her love life? Let's just say it's been a string of first dates that never turned into second ones. Ellie's not bitter, but she's tired. Tired of swiping, tired of small talk, tired of feeling like she's missing something. That's why the letter hit her so hard. It wasn't just the words, it was the raw emotion behind them, the kind of passion she hasn't felt in ages. It's like the letter woke something up in her, a spark of hope that maybe life still has surprises in store. But there's more to Ellie than her doubts and dreams. She's got a sharp wit, a knack for noticing details others miss, and a stubborn streak that makes her the worst person to dare. That's going to come in handy, because this mystery is about to test her in ways she never expected. You're probably rooting for her already, aren't you? I know I am. Now let's talk about that knock at the door, because it's not just a random interruption. It's the start of a subplot that's going to twist this story in a whole new direction. When Ellie opened the door, she found her downstairs neighbor, Marcus, standing there, looking more flustered than usual. Marcus is a 32-year-old aspiring musician, The kind of guy who always has a guitar slung over his shoulder and a story about the gig that's gonna change everything. He's charming in a scruffy, unpolished way, and he's been Ellie's go-to for late-night chats over cheap wine when neither of them can sleep. But tonight, he's not his usual laid-back self. He's holding a crumpled piece of paper, and his eyes are darting around like he's expecting trouble. "Ellie, you're not gonna believe this," he says, his voice low, "but I think someone's been in my apartment." Before she can even process that, he thrusts the paper at her, a handwritten note, not unlike the one she found in the suitcase, but this one's different. It's not a love letter. It's a warning. "Keep it safe," it says, in jagged, hurried handwriting. "They're watching." Ellie's stomach drops. 2 mysterious notes in one night? That's no coincidence. Marcus doesn't know about her letter yet, but she's already connecting the dots, wondering if the suitcase mix-up is part of something bigger. Is someone out there leaving cryptic messages, pulling strings? And if so, why is Ellie caught in the middle? You're probably thinking what I'm thinking. This just got a lot more complicated, and we're only scratching the surface. Let's add another layer to this mystery, because things are about to get even juicier. While Ellie's trying to calm Marcus down and figure out what his note means, her phone buzzes with a text from her best friend, Lila, who's been backpacking across Europe for the last 3 months. Lila's the opposite of Ellie. Fearless, impulsive, always chasing the next adventure. Her text is short but cryptic. "Hey, you still in Chicago? Found something weird in Paris. Call me ASAP." Ellie's head is spinning now. First the love letter, then Marcus's warning note, and now Lila's vague message from halfway across the world? She hasn't even had a chance to tell anyone about the suitcase, but it's starting to feel like the universe is conspiring to drag her into something she's not prepared for. Lila's message hints at a subplot we'll dive into later, but for now, it's enough to make Ellie, and you, wonder if these events are connected. Is the love letter just the tip of the iceberg? Could there be a network of strangers, scattered across cities, leaving clues for reasons Ellie can't yet fathom? The idea sounds crazy, but Ellie's starting to think there's more to this than a simple luggage mix-up. You're probably itching to know what Lila found, aren't you? Don't worry, we'll get there. But first, let's follow Ellie as she digs deeper into the letter that started it all. Back to the love letter, because it's still the heart of this story, and Ellie can't stop thinking about it, even with Marcus pacing her living room and Lila's text burning a hole in her phone. She picks it up again, rereading the lines that have already seared themselves into her memory. The writer's words are poetic but grounded, like they're speaking from a place of deep longing. There's a mention of a specific moment, a rainy afternoon at a coffee shop called the Daily Grind, where the writer saw someone they couldn't forget. Ellie knows that place. It's a quirky little spot in New York she visited during her work trip. Could that be why the letter feels so personal? Was she there at the same time as the writer, just missing them by a twist of fate? The initials JL on the suitcase are her only clue, but they're not much to go on. She starts Googling, searching for anything that might point to the owner. A lost luggage report, a social media post, anything. But the internet's a black hole, and she's coming up empty. That's when Marcus, still rattled, notices the suitcase and asks what's going on. Ellie hesitates but decides to trust him, showing him the letter. His reaction surprises her. He doesn't laugh it off or call her paranoid. Instead, he gets quiet, his eyes narrowing as he reads. "Ellie," he says slowly, "this sounds like something my cousin was mixed up in a few years ago. He found a letter like this, and it led him down a rabbit hole he barely got out of." Now you're probably as freaked out as Ellie is. What kind of rabbit hole? And how does Marcus's cousin fit into this? The plot thickens, and we're nowhere near the bottom yet. Let's introduce another perspective to keep you on your toes, because this story isn't just about Ellie. It's about the ripples her discovery is sending out into the world. Somewhere in New York, a man named Julian is sitting in a dimly lit apartment, staring at his phone, his jaw tight. He's the owner of the suitcase, and he's just realized it's gone. Julian's in his mid-30s, with a quiet intensity that makes people notice him, even when he's trying to blend in. He's not the type to lose things. He's meticulous, almost to a fault. But the airport was a mess, and now his suitcase, with something deeply personal inside, is in someone else's hands. We don't know yet if Julian is JL, the writer, or if he's connected to the letter in another way, but his anxiety is palpable. He's not just worried about the suitcase. He's worried about what someone might find inside it. Julian's got secrets, ones he's worked hard to keep buried, and the thought of a stranger stumbling across them is making him question every choice he's made in the last year. His perspective adds a new layer of suspense. Why is he so desperate to get the suitcase back? What's he hiding? And does he even know about the love letter? Or is that a surprise waiting for him too? You're probably dying to know more about Julian, and I don't blame you. He's a puzzle wrapped in a mystery, and his story is going to collide with Ellie's in ways neither of them can predict. As Ellie and Marcus sit in her apartment, the weight of the night settling over them, the tension is almost unbearable. The love letter, Marcus's warning note, Lila's cryptic text, and now the hint of a deeper, possibly dangerous connection through Marcus's cousin. It's all too much to process. Ellie's not a detective. She's just a woman who wanted to unpack and go to bed. But now she's caught in a web of intrigue, and every choice she makes is pulling her in deeper. She could stop now, return the suitcase to the airport, and forget the letter ever existed. But that spark in her, the one that's been dormant for so long, is wide awake now. She wants answers, not just about the letter, but about herself. Is she brave enough to chase this mystery, even if it leads somewhere dark? Marcus is watching her, waiting for her to decide, and you can feel the stakes rising with every second. You're probably yelling at the screen, telling her to go for it, to find out who JL is and what the writer was trying to say. But just as Ellie opens her mouth to tell Marcus her plan, her phone rings. It's Lila calling from Paris, and the first words out of her mouth are, "Ellie, I think I just met the person who wrote your letter." Lila's voice crackled through the phone, her words hitting Ellie like a tidal wave. "I think I just met the person who wrote your letter." For a moment, the world seemed to stop. Ellie's apartment, with its cluttered coffee table and the open suitcase spilling secrets, felt like the center of a storm. Marcus, still holding his cryptic warning note, leaned closer, his eyes wide as he tried to eavesdrop. Ellie's mind was racing. How could Lila, thousands of miles away in Paris, know anything about the love letter she'd found just hours ago? She hadn't even told her about it yet. The coincidence was too much, like the universe was playing a game with rules Ellie didn't understand. Her heart pounded as she pressed the phone tighter to her ear, barely breathing, waiting for Lila to explain. You're probably just as stunned as Ellie right now, your mind spinning with questions. How does Lila fit into this? Is she really connected to the writer? Or is this another twist in a story that's already bursting with mystery? Stick with me, because this is where things get wild, and the stakes are about to skyrocket in ways you won't see coming. We're diving deeper into this roller coaster of love, fate, and secrets, and I promise, you're not going to want to look away. Let's back up just a bit to keep you grounded, because Lila's bombshell isn't the only thing shaking up Ellie's world. Before the call, Ellie and Marcus were already on edge, piecing together the puzzle of the love letter and Marcus's unsettling note that warned, "They're watching." Marcus's mention of his cousin's rabbit hole had planted a seed of dread in Ellie's mind, hinting that the suitcase mix-up might be tied to something bigger, maybe even dangerous. Now, with Lila's voice trembling through the phone, that seed was sprouting into full-blown paranoia. Lila explained that she'd been at a crowded cafe in Paris, sketching strangers as she often did, when a man sat down nearby, scribbling furiously in a notebook. He left abruptly, forgetting a page that tore loose and fluttered to the ground. Lila, being her nosy self, picked it up and read it. It was a draft of a letter, filled with the same poetic longing as Ellie's, mentioning a rainy afternoon at the daily grind and the moment we almost met. Lila didn't know about Ellie's letter yet, but when she texted earlier about something weird, this was it. The kicker? The man had introduced himself to the barista as Julian. Julian. The same name tied to the initials JL on the suitcase. Ellie's stomach churned. Was Julian the writer, leaving love letters across continents? Or was he carrying someone else's words, caught in the same web as Ellie? You're probably feeling the same chill she did, wondering how these threads, Chicago, New York, Paris, are weaving together. This isn't just a love story anymore. It's a mystery with global stakes, and Ellie's right at the heart of it. Here's where the unexpected twist comes in, and trust me, it's going to flip everything you thought you knew. As Lila kept talking, describing Julian's nervous demeanor and the way he glanced over his shoulder like he was being followed, Marcus suddenly grabbed Ellie's arm, his face pale. "Ellie, check the suitcase again," he whispered, his voice tight. She frowned, confused, but his urgency was contagious. With Lila still on speaker, Ellie knelt by the suitcase, rifling through the clothes and toiletries she'd barely glanced at before. Tucked inside a hidden pocket, she found something she'd missed, a small, locked metal box, no bigger than a paperback, with a combination lock and the faint engraving of a symbol, a crescent moon. Her breath caught. This wasn't just a random suitcase anymore. It was a Pandora's box, and the love letter was only part of its secrets. Marcus's warning note flashed in her mind. Keep it safe. They're watching. Was the box what they were after? And who were they? Lila, overhearing the commotion, gasped. Ellie, the guy in Paris, he had a tattoo of a crescent moon on his wrist. The room spun. The symbol, the letter, Julian's name. It was all connected, but how? And why was Ellie, an ordinary graphic designer, holding the key to something that felt like it belonged in a spy thriller? You're probably screaming at the screen, wanting to know what's in that box. I get it, but we're not opening it yet. This twist just raised the stakes, and the danger is closing in. Let's dive into the subplots, because they're fueling the suspense and adding layers to this already tangled story. Marcus's warning note is starting to feel like more than a coincidence. He confessed to Ellie that his cousin Leo got caught up in something shady a few years back after finding a similar handwritten note in a bar. Leo never shared the full story, but he disappeared for months, resurfacing with vague warnings about people who don't like loose ends. Marcus had always thought Leo was exaggerating, but now with his own note and Ellie's suitcase, he's not so sure. He's scared, and that's making Ellie question how far she's willing to push this. Marcus isn't just a sidekick here. He's got his own stake in this mystery, and his fear is grounding Ellie, reminding her that this isn't a game. Meanwhile, Lila's subplot in Paris is taking on a life of its own. She's not just a bystander who found a letter. She's digging too, determined to track down Julian before he vanishes into the Parisian crowds. Lila's impulsive nature makes her a wild card, and her texts to Ellie are getting more frantic, hinting that she's stumbled onto something bigger than a love letter. She mentioned seeing Julian talking to a woman in a black coat, someone who looked like she was giving orders, not just chatting. Is Julian working with someone, or is he in over his head, just like Ellie? These subplots aren't just side stories. They're tightening the web around Ellie, making every choice feel like it could tip the scales toward answers or disaster. Now let's escalate the main conflict, because Ellie's not just chasing a romantic mystery anymore. She's caught in something that feels like it could unravel her life. The locked box changes everything. It's not just a clue, it's a taunt, daring her to crack it open and face whatever's inside. But the crescent moon symbol, tying the box to Julian's tattoo, suggests this isn't a one-off mistake. Someone meant for this suitcase to end up somewhere. Maybe even with Ellie. The love letter, with its heartfelt words, now feels like bait, luring her into a trap she can't see. She's torn. Part of her wants to call the airport, hand over the suitcase, and wash her hands of it. But the other part, the part that's been craving purpose, can't let go. The letter's words keep echoing in her head, promising a connection she's been missing, while Marcus's warning and Lila's discovery scream danger. And then there's Julian, out there somewhere, maybe desperate to reclaim his secrets, maybe unaware of how close Ellie is to unraveling them. The tension is suffocating, and Ellie's running out of time to decide what to do. Every choice feels like a step toward a climax she's not ready for, and you're probably feeling that same knot in your stomach, wondering how she's going to navigate this. Here's where we keep you hooked with another layer of intrigue, because this story thrives on keeping you guessing. As Ellie stares at the locked box, her phone buzzes again. Not Lila this time, but an unknown number. The text is short, chilling. You have something that doesn't belong to you. Leave it at the Daily Grind by midnight, or we'll find you. Ellie's blood runs cold. The coffee shop from the letter, the one she visited in New York, is now a drop-off point for. What? The box? The letter? The entire suitcase? And who's we? The same they from Marcus's note? She shows the text to Marcus, who's now pacing like a caged animal, muttering about getting out of town. But Ellie's not running. Not yet. She's angry, scared, but also defiant. Someone's trying to scare her, and she's not going to let them win without a fight. Lila, still on the line, overhears and begs Ellie to be careful, promising to keep digging in Paris. The clock's ticking, and Ellie's got to decide. Does she follow the text's instructions and risk walking into a trap, or does she keep the box and hunt for answers, knowing she's being watched? You're probably on the edge of your seat, desperate to know what she'll choose. The twist of the box, the threat, and Lila's connection to Julian have pushed this story to a boiling point, but we're not at the climax yet. Just as Ellie grabs her coat, ready to make her move, she notices something she missed before, a faint scratch on the box's lock, like someone's already tried to break it open. The faint scratch on the locked box's crescent moon engraving felt like a warning etched in steel, and Ellie's fingers trembled as she traced it, her coat already on, her mind racing toward a decision that could either unravel the mystery or destroy her. The threatening text, "Leave it at the daily grind by midnight, or we'll find you," hung over her like a storm cloud, and Marcus's pacing wasn't helping. His eyes darted between the box and his own cryptic note, his voice shaky as he begged her to drop the suitcase at the airport and walk away. But Ellie wasn't built to run from a fight, not when the love letter's words still burned in her chest, promising a connection that felt like fate, and not when Lila's voice, crackling through the phone from Paris, was urging her to keep digging. Lila's claim that she'd met Julian, the man tied to the suitcase's initials, JL, and spotted his crescent moon tattoo had turned this from a quirky mix-up into a high-stakes puzzle with global threads. Ellie's defiance was winning out over her fear, and she knew she had to go to the daily grind. Not to surrender the box, but to face whoever was pulling the strings. You're probably gripping the edge of your seat, feeling the same adrenaline Ellie did, wondering if she's walking into a trap or toward the answers you've been chasing with her. This is it, the climax of our journey, where love, mystery, and danger collide. And I promise, the resolution will leave you speechless with a twist you'll never forget. Ellie's decision to head to the daily grind wasn't just about the box or the letter. It was about reclaiming control of a life that had felt aimless for too long. She stuffed the locked box into her backpack, tucked the love letter in her pocket, and told Marcus to stay put, ignoring his protests. The Chicago night was frigid, the streets buzzing with late-night energy as she caught a cab to the airport, where she'd catch a red-eye to New York. The daily grind was hours away, but the deadline felt like a ticking bomb. On the plane, she reread the letter, its words about a rainy afternoon and the moment we almost met, anchoring her resolve. She also texted Lila, who was now tailing Julian through Paris, determined to confront him about the crescent moon connection. Lila's subplot was racing toward its own climax. She'd learned Julian was meeting the mysterious woman in the black coat again, and she was convinced they were part of a larger scheme. Meanwhile, Marcus, left behind, wasn't idle. He was digging into his cousin Leo's old emails, hunting for clues about the rabbit hole that had swallowed him years ago. Every subplot was converging, and Ellie felt like the linchpin, her choices about to decide whether this ended in heartbreak, revelation, or something darker. You're probably sensing the tension building, the way every piece of this puzzle, Ellie's courage, Lila's recklessness, Marcus's fear, is locking into place for a showdown you can't look away from. When Ellie arrived at the daily grind in New York, the coffee shop was dimly lit, its windows streaked with rain, just like the letter described. It was 11:45 p.m., and the place was nearly empty, save for a barista wiping down counters and a man in a corner booth, his face shadowed by a baseball cap. Ellie's heart skipped. Was that Julian? She clutched her backpack, the weight of the locked box grounding her, and took a seat near the door, her eyes scanning for anyone who might be they. The threatening text had her on edge, but she wasn't here to drop and run. She wanted answers. At exactly midnight, the door swung open, and a woman in a black coat stepped inside, her gaze locking onto Ellie like a predator spotting prey. This was no coincidence. She was the same woman Lila had seen with Julian in Paris. Before Ellie could react, the woman slid into the booth across from her, her voice low and sharp. "You have the box. Hand it over and you walk away." Ellie's pulse raced, but she held her ground, demanding to know who she was and why the box mattered. The woman's smirk was chilling. "You think this is about a love letter? That letter was a mistake. A loose end. The box is what we need, and you're in way over your head." Ellie's mind reeled. The letter wasn't the point? Then why did it feel so personal? You're probably as confused and hooked as she was, desperate to know what's in that box and why this woman is so dangerous. Here's where the climax hits, and it's a whirlwind of revelation and danger. Ellie, refusing to back down, pulled the box from her backpack and held it up, daring the woman to explain. The woman's eyes narrowed, and she leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. "That box holds a key, a literal one, to a safe deposit box with evidence that could take down some very powerful people. The letter was never meant to be found. It was a draft, slipped in by mistake." Ellie's stomach dropped. The love letter, the words that had sparked this entire journey, was an accident? But before she could process that, the man in the baseball cap stood up, revealing himself as Julian. He wasn't working with the woman. He was terrified of her. "Ellie, don't give it to her," he pleaded, his voice raw. I wrote the letter, but I didn't know it was in the suitcase. I thought I'd lost it forever. Julian's confession hit Ellie like a lightning bolt. He was the writer, and the letter was real, written for someone he'd seen at the Daily Grind a year ago. Someone he thought was Ellie, based on a fleeting glance during that rainy afternoon. The woman lunged for the box, but Ellie was faster, bolting out the door into the rain-soaked street, Julian hot on her heels, the woman shouting threats behind them. The chase through New York's slick streets was heart-pounding, with Ellie clutching the box, her mind racing to piece together Julian's story and the woman's motives. You're probably breathless, picturing this cinematic sprint, wondering if Ellie can outrun the danger and what Julian's about to reveal. The resolution comes fast but feels earned, tying up the main conflicts while setting up the final twist. Ellie and Julian ducked into an alley, catching their breath as the woman's footsteps faded. Julian explained everything. He'd been a journalist investigating a corrupt organization, and the box contained a key to evidence he'd hidden in a safe deposit box. The love letter was a personal note he'd written to cope with his loneliness, never meant for anyone to see, but he'd mistakenly packed it in the suitcase during a frantic move. The crescent moon was a symbol of the organization he was exposing, and the woman in the black coat was one of their enforcers. Ellie's accidental grab of the suitcase had thrown their plans into chaos, making her a target. But Julian's honesty, and the raw emotion in his letter, convinced Ellie to trust him. Together, they contacted the authorities, using Marcus's research into Leo's emails to pinpoint the organization's weak spots. Lila, still in Paris, sent photos of the woman meeting other operatives, sealing the case. The authorities raided the organization's hideout, recovering the evidence, and the woman was arrested. Ellie's courage had not only saved her but dismantled a dangerous network. The subplots wrapped up neatly. Marcus found closure about Leo's ordeal, and Lila returned to Chicago, her adventure fueling her next trip. But the love letter's mystery lingered. Julian admitted he'd written it for the woman he saw at the Daily Grind, and he still believed it was Ellie, though they'd never spoken. Their connection, sparked by a mistake, felt like fate. And now, the final twist to leave you in awe. As Ellie and Julian stood in the police station, the case closed, she handed him the love letter, saying she couldn't keep something so personal. He smiled, then hesitated, pulling a second letter from his pocket, one he'd written after meeting her at the Daily Grind that night. This one's for you, he said, his eyes soft but nervous. Ellie's heart skipped. The first letter was a fluke, a draft for a stranger, but this new one was deliberate, written for her after their chase, their shared fight, their undeniable spark. She didn't read it then, she tucked it away, promising to open it when she was ready. Back in Chicago, Ellie sat on her couch, the locked box now evidence, the suitcase returned, and the new letter in her hands. She didn't need to read it to know what it said. The journey had already taught her what she'd been searching for. Courage, connection, and the belief that even mistakes can lead to something beautiful. You're probably tearing up, just like I am, feeling the weight of that moment. This story isn't just about a love letter or a mystery. It's about trusting the unexpected, chasing what scares you, and finding yourself along the way. Ellie's story ends with a choice: to open the letter and maybe start something new with Julian, or to hold on to the lesson and keep moving forward. What would you choose? That's the takeaway I want you to carry. Life's mix-ups might just be the universe's way of writing your own love story.